Hello, welcome back to Yoga with Paige. I am Paige and I am a certified yoga instructor. I've been practicing for about 5 years and teaching for about 2. I started teaching in person. I taught classes outside to family and friends. I taught at a gym before kind of transitioning into online. So now I post daily classes, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness on my channel here, if you are not familiar with me as an instructor yet. Today I wanted to share with you some tips for new yoga teachers. These things, I heard a few of these from other teachers before. Sometimes just hearing them is enough, but most of these you have to kind of just work through on your own, but you are not alone. First of all, congratulations on completing your first 200-hour yoga teacher certification. It is so fun to share these practices and experiences with everyone, but it can also be very overwhelming and kind of daunting. I remember when I first completed mine, I was like, okay, so now what do I do? Where do I go from here? Which brings me to my first tip, which is to just jump into teaching. It's never going to feel like the right time. But you need to teach as much as possible, especially if you've just completed your certification. I recommend beginning to teach as soon as you can. It's going to be scary. You're going to probably mess up a few times. You're going to be nervous, but just jump right in. And the more you teach, the more often, close together, the faster you will get over those nerves and realize that it's actually just really fun. So I recommend teaching first to family and friends, especially if you don't have a job yet lined up. It's definitely an easier way to feel comfortable if you're surrounded by just a few close family members or friends that you're already comfortable with. You can really just focus on trying to cue them and just getting the hang of what it feels like to teach instead of just be the student. Which is also especially good if your family and friends don't really practice yoga. You can see how good your cueing is, see where you need to improve as you watch them, and that just takes time. I'm still working on that one. It does kind of wrap around to my second point. This isn't really a tip, but I just want to let you know you will probably get some sort of an imposter syndrome. And if you don't, kudos to you. I'm happy for you. I truly am. I had to work through imposter syndrome for, honestly, quite a long time. 6 months, maybe even my first year. I remember crying before and after classes, feeling like I was the worst teacher in the world, that I had no clue what I was doing. And I just did not feel confident in my ability to lead others. And I couldn't understand why someone would want to take a class with me versus somebody else who's been doing it for years. But you won't get there unless you start. All of these teachers that you see on social media, or if you've been going to a studio, say, for years, they have already been teaching for years. They've already gone through this whole process. Everybody has to start somewhere. So try not to compare yourself, it's hard, to people that you see that have been teaching for a long time, that are already comfortable, they're already somewhere else on their journey. But you're not there yet. You are just starting, and it's fresh and it's new. So just embrace all of that. There's going to be some mess ups. There's going to be some kind of feelings of unease that you don't know enough, but you learn as you go. And it's super fun to learn alongside your students. Maybe try and keep that perspective in mind whenever you feel unconfident or that you don't know enough. You can learn and grow alongside your students and really build up a community that way. Really get to know your students and learn with them. Which brings me to another point, number 3, I think, which is to stay a student. Now you are a teacher, but always stay a student. Go to other classes. Take other classes online with different instructors. Take different continuing education. Stay a student. Keep thriving and wanting to learn more, get more inspiration, and just see what other people have to offer. Everybody has a different teaching style, different way of cueing, different yoga focuses, I guess, if that makes sense. And you can pick up bits and pieces from each person and help you mold your own identity as a yoga teacher. It will take you a little bit to find your authentic voice. So just play around with that. Don't try to be like anyone else, especially if you have a favorite teacher in mind. Don't try to embody them. Just embody yourself. Stay true to yourself, and you will find the people that gravitate towards your teaching style, and they will want to stay in your class for you. So staying a student also kind of goes along with ongoing education. Make sure that you are continuing your teacher trainings, different workshops, studying up on your anatomy and physiology. Anatomy is such a big part of yoga, the proper alignment. Every body is different. The way that we're anatomically just made up. Some poses may not ever be accessible to people. That's just how it is. And the more we can learn about each muscle, the more we can cue better. We can help people with alignment, especially if you're trying hands-on adjustments. Continue your anatomy education. The first 200 hours of your teacher training is not sufficient for anatomy. So get those coloring workbooks, get flashcards, try to make it fun, learn how you can, but make sure to keep learning and keep growing, because in this community especially, things are always changing. We find new ways of movement, we find new research, new scientific research that backs up things maybe from 5 years ago. That's not true anymore. And now we have to learn something else. So try to stay up with the latest yoga news, what's kind of happening around. I'm already losing track of my numbers here. Counting is not my strong suit. But another tip is to try not to neglect your home practice. This one sounded super silly to me. I heard this a few times in my teacher training, and I was like, okay, I don't think I would ever neglect my home practice, but it happened. I did end up falling into this little trap, and it really did surprise me. Taking your passion for yoga into the teaching is very different, and it takes a lot of time and energy to be creating your classes, practicing them, memorizing them, learning through the different Sanskrit names, etc. And sometimes we may not have the energy or desire to really step on the mat for ourselves if we've been doing a lot of work for our students and in classes, but it is so important that you keep up your passion for this. It shows through in all of your classes, and you need to explore more movements, more ways to move, find more inspiration, and really the way that you're going to do that is by yourself, with yourself, on your mat, in your home practice. And then the fun things that you find in your home practice, you can take with you to your classes. It will help you in turn sequence your classes, which can also be a struggle. So just try, and it doesn't have to be asana every day. You don't have to physically move your body every day. Your home practice can be meditation. Even just a few minutes of meditation or mindfulness, maybe including it in with your studying, kind of make it a little mishmash of everything all together. Some journaling prompts. Just keep the creative juices flowing. Stay true to yourself. Don't lose your own personal identity within transitioning to the role of a teacher. These are all tying in quite nicely to each other, if I might say. This kind of brings me around circle to my next tip, is that every class does not have to be a new sequence or a super creative, fun transition class. That is a lot of time, a lot of energy, and honestly, your students will benefit from having some repetition, whether it be flowing through the same sequence a few times in your class, maybe adding on a little bit. Or maybe you revisit the same class every Tuesday, say, or once a month you do a new, repeating the same classes and having your students flow through the same motions or same ways of moving will give them a way to benchmark their progress. They can say, hey, this feels different from last time I did this. Maybe I feel more open this time, or it came more natural to me. The only way that you can track your progress is to do the same things a few times and see the comparison. So it is super fun to find new creative ways to move, and that is part of my favorite thing of being a yoga teacher, is finding the creative expression, the creative outlet. But the foundational poses, the foundational sun salutations and sequences are just as important. So make sure to tie those back in. Find a nice balance between foundation and fun and repetition and new. The next tip I have for you is to plan to not have a plan. What does that mean? Well, you can spend hours creating the most beautiful sequence, just music to your body, to your ears, and then you bring it to class, and maybe your students are not there. Maybe it's some of these poses, these transitions are not accessible to them. Maybe they have some contraindications or some physical ailments that makes this posture or this sequence not accessible. So you have to be able to be malleable. You have to be able to go kind of off the script, ad-lib, make up some stuff, change it around, be able to modify postures, especially the more intermediate or advanced postures, be able to modify them back to beginners, dropping the knees in chaturanga or cow face pose. If that's too difficult, we can always open it up and just stack legs, things like that, to modify each posture to suit your students' needs. That is why you're here. Of course, your sequences can be beautiful, but if you are not meeting your students' needs, they probably won't return to your class. Everybody is unique and everybody is different, and we need to be able to adapt to who is walking into our class. And it's kind of fun. So I have a little special tip in there. Try on a day where you have a class and you don't need to modify anything, just try to take out a pose or two and just switch around something and add in something else, or maybe take something out, add in a different posture. Play around and try to change up your sequences so that you get used to just kind of flowing randomly. Sometimes that's the most fun, to just not have a single plan. My next tip may be a little hard to hear, so pull your sensitive pants off. Some people will not like you. Doesn't matter what you do, how you teach, who you are. Some people will not like your style. They won't like your teaching style. You as a person, some people just won't like you, and that is the way it goes. You cannot please everybody. You will not please everybody, so please don't really try. Find your authentic voice. Stick with yourself, and you will attract the people that like your style, the people that feel your authenticity. Authenticity is a huge thing as a yoga teacher. People don't want a fake yoga teacher. They don't want someone up there idolizing themselves, putting themselves up on a pedestal, or trying to be someone they're not. People can feel that. Energy is very real. I'm sure you know. I'm sure you can feel it. Just be yourself. Be yourself. Whether that be, I struggled with this actually for a really long time too. A really, really long time. I didn't know if my silly, goofy nature in my classes was too silly. Sometimes I sing a little bit, sometimes I joke, sometimes I laugh, and some people don't like that. Some people want a very serious, mellow tone to their classes, and I definitely have those as well. But it took me a while to really just be confident in myself, and that some people really need that little comic relief, and they like the joy, and maybe it makes them feel joy as well. So I think I'm kind of rambling here, but really just be yourself. Try to be as authentic as possible and just know and be okay with the fact that some people won't like you. That's all right. Maybe you don't want to have people in class that don't like you, and you'll find your people. You will find your tribe. My next tip is to not fill every second with talking, especially when you're first starting out, when you're a little bit nervous and you feel kind of awkward. You might not have your cueing down and honed in. You might be saying a lot of extra words you don't need to be, or you might just feel awkward and want to fill every single space with words. Try not to do that. Try to find a balance between supporting your students, giving them space, helping them, but also allowing them to work through things and process things on their own. If you don't allow for any silences or pauses, it will be hard for your students to integrate that union of body and mind if they're always trying to tune out your chitter chatter in the background. And I think I am a little bit guilty of this. I probably talk a little bit more than I should. Might not be a surprise if you're watching this video. I have to remind myself sometimes. Pause. Let them pause, even if it's just for a breath or two. Invite them to check in and just notice what's going on in their mind or in their brain, in their body. Don't fill every silence with speech. Not all silence is awkward. Silence is necessary. Pausing is very, very necessary, especially in yoga. I think this is like the 10th tip. Make sure to try to settle yourself down before class. Calm the nervous system down. Arrive 15, 20, 30 minutes early if you need to. Meditate a little bit. Listen to calming music. Do whatever you need to do to take up space as a yoga teacher and really show up for your students in the way that they need you to. If you bring your anxieties and your own daily life stressors, we all have them, if you bring them onto the mat, your students will start to feel it. They will notice, and some of them might even take it on and leave the mat feeling a little bit different than they should. So try to really leave everything else behind, to leave the day behind, and really just come into the present moment. Practice what you preach and find some presence before you begin teaching. And the final tip that I have for you today is to not be afraid to say that you don't know, especially in the very beginning before you continue your education and you keep going, and you will learn as you go all the time, constantly learning. But don't be afraid to say that you don't know the answer. People will come up to you and they will ask you questions about their body, or, I have a herniated disc, or I have this, I have that. What can I do? If you don't know, don't give answers that you're not fully 100% confident in. It is better, more professional, to say simply that you don't know the answer to that question, that you don't feel you have enough knowledge to give them, whoa, scared me, to give them a good answer. And you have two options. Depending on the nature of the question and what you feel comfortable with, you can, one, refer them to a recommended doctor, physician, person who is actually more versed in the anatomy of the body at the moment, and that can help them with their problem. And two, you can say that you don't know enough right now, but you would love to take this as an opportunity to learn with them and go home and research and come back with an answer later. I did this when I first started teaching, and it was actually pretty eye-opening. It was pretty fun. People would ask me questions, and it gave me a sense of confidence that they thought that I had the answer. It was great. But when I didn't know, it was really nice to say, hey, I appreciate your question. I don't have the answer for you, but I would love to go research, find out more about this and we can discuss it and figure it out together. We can find the solution together. It is another way that you will help build your own sense of community with your classes. And I feel that that is such an important part of being a yoga instructor. You are kind of a guide, instructor, friend, supportive. I don't know. It's many, many roles. There are many facets to being a yoga teacher. And I think building a strong sense of community really helps integrate all of those and just make it more fun. Make it more fun for everyone involved. So those were all of the tips that I have for new yoga teachers, the advice that I give to you. So please drop any questions, any feedback, any thoughts down below. I would love to open this discussion and really talk to you about this because it's important. It is important, and I want you to feel the most comfortable that you can, the most confident up there on your mat that you can, and just really make this fun for everyone involved. It is a little scary, but it's not so scary. Thank you so much for tuning in to this video, and I hope I maybe helped ease your mind a little bit, gave you some little food for thought. Maybe try and journal out some of these ideas or write them down to refer back to before you begin teaching your classes. And I would love it if you would join me on the mat for some classes online. Here I do, like I said, upload daily classes for yoga physical flows or mindfulness practices, guided meditations. We have kind of an array of things here going on Yoga with Paige. And I would love to get to know you and have you a part of the Yoga with Paige community. Thank you again, and I look forward to the next time we meet. And good luck on your teaching journey. I know you will do great as long as you stay true to yourself. Follow your own heart. You know what's best. Try not to second guess yourself so much. Until next time.